Welcome back to another episode of Imagine Better, everybody. This is your host, Mark Powers. I have a special guest in studio today, Gabe Karp. Gabe, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man.
Awesome.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We're welcome. We're going to hopefully talk about how we, you don't want to be mad at these little penguins. Don't get mad at penguins.
Oh, don't get mad at penguins.
And then conflict, the positive and the negative.
Yep.
I mean, I've watched some of your videos. I've seen your talks. You're very well spoken, you're very confident, and you're very well versed in this topic.
Well, thank you. It's been a passion of mine.
I could tell.
Yeah. So, giving a lot of thought to the healthy conflict and the toxic conflict and everything in between.
I want to get into that. I mean, I've heard interviews of you, and I'm not going to get into all the, people. If you want, you're going to learn more about Gabe today, but. I'll provide you a bunch of links and stuff, how to follow this guy. But, obviously you started out as a trial lawyer. We all know that. And people that know you, a trial lawyer, you did a lot of litigation and divorce for corporations, I heard in one of the interviews. And, now you're a speaker full-time, and you're an author. Let's go. Let's dive into this.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, even now when you say it. I never thought of myself as an author, and right. I still don't. But technically, I am because I wrote a book. So
that's right here, everybody.
Yeah,
right?
that's a label I haven't quite gotten used to yet.
It's a great book.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I just got it recently, so I haven't gone through the whole thing yet. But
right.
I am very much intrigued by the concept of this, and I've never looked at conflict the way that you present it in your book, ever.
They're opportunities. That's really what they are. They're opportunities.
I like how you talk about the four toxics that you've identified over the years. Let me get them right here. See, so we have fear, anger, judgment, and ego, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
Boop. Did a little bit of homework. So, usually I don't do any research at all because I want it to be as truly authentic as possible.
Well, hey, I'm honored.
So walk me through. I mean, well, forget the book for a second. Who's Gabe? I mean, tell me about you. What's behind the trial lawyer? What's behind this author and this public speaker? Who are you as a human being?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a husband and a dad.
Nice.
I have 3 girls.
There's a house full.
Yeah, it can.
You're outnumbered,
It can get loud. Oh yeah. They're older though. My youngest is just starting her senior year of high school, so we're eyeing the empty nest, and it's going to be a very bittersweet moment.
I'm sure.
So anyway, there's that.
Well, wait a minute. How does it? So you have the youngest is graduating high school.
She's just starting her senior year.
Starting,
yep.
Okay. And the other two, what's the age gap?
Okay, so then I have a 20-year-old who's a junior in college.
Nice.
And I have a 22-year-old, almost 23-year-old, who has recently moved back to the Detroit area and she's beginning her life as an adult.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow, proud dad here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can't imagine the whole empty. I have younger kids. So my daughter's 10 and my son's 11.
Oh, okay.
so I have a journey ahead of me.
You're in it. Yeah.
My daughter thinks she's 22 and she acts like it, trust me.
Yeah.
But so I can't imagine having 3 daughters plus a wife. So I mean, you're outnumbered. I feel for you.
Yeah, and I remember when my middle daughter was 13. She was 13, going on "F you guys."
Oh gosh,
just walking around the house with this look on her face, like I can't believe I have to live here with you people.
Yeah.
And I was. I remember I would talk to her and I'd say, I know how frustrating it is because I remember when I knew everything.
Yeah. We all do that.
Yeah, and I said, I just ask that you be patient with us. We're just not keeping up with you, and cut us some slack. And I would pour it on, and she'd roll her eyes, and right, whatever.
Wow, that's awesome. So you've been married for how many years then?
We just had our anniversary last week, 26 years.
Ooh, awesome! Congrats. I wasn't going to try to math. So I'm terrible at math. 26 years. That's brilliant. That is, any secret sauce to this? For people
don't get mad at penguins.
Don't get mad. Hey, that's a great way to.
You like that?
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Although I must say, I did write the book. I'm proud of it, but Let's just say it's possible that in my household, maybe it's been said at times, maybe you should read your own book.
Oh my, they use that as a weapon against you.
Right.
That's awesome.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, so when you're I mean, obviously your career, all the experience that you had kind of led to, I'm sure, contributed to the success of this and the writing of it. I mean, I would only imagine, living in a household you did with 3 girls plus, 4 women in the home. You're learning conflict, at all angles. Yeah. So, I mean, did the personal life as well as professional life kind of lead you to this?
Absolutely. So I'm the youngest of 4. So I have 2 older brothers and an older sister.
Yeah.
And my dad was a lawyer, and we kind of grew up in like a lawyerly household. You had to. I was going
to ask you
if you wanted anything, you had to debate for it.
Wow.
And then with 2 older brothers, if I wanted anything, I had to fight for it. Usually physically. So that was just a very different experience than watching my girls grow up. Mm-hmm. But, when I got in, like from those environments, being raised in that, and then moving into the litigation world, which is very cutthroat, and then leaving the private practice of law and joining a small startup in the tech space and growing that to a rather big company, I started to just see the same patterns occurring in all of the lines and the divisions between those worlds went away, and it's just life, and it's the same patterns of conflict I would see in the boardroom or the courtroom was the same stuff I saw in high school and middle school.
Wow.
And then and dealing with family members and the Thanksgiving dinner table. It's all the same. Anytime you have people dealing with other people. Yeah, we just naturally are going to bump into some conflict.
See, I like it because even in your book and in some of your talks, I've noticed people don't generally think of conflict as it could be a positive thing, right? And I, like most people I'm sure out there, right? Drop a comment if you agree or disagree, people. But I mean, to me, it's like I get angry and I attack, right? I think that's the first line of defense, fight or flight.
Yep.
Or I might I might be scared and fearful of the situation and flight, get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's interesting how you break this down and how you have identified it and distilled it down to those 4 toxics.
Yeah, the toxins of fear, anger, judgment, and ego are all things that we naturally have. They're not all emotions, but I call them like. Judgment's technically not an emotion, but I just say they're emotions for ease of, writing it. But the idea is that all of those things naturally happen within us, and they are healthy. There's an optimal range where they're healthy. But too much or too little, they move into toxic territory. So fear is very healthy. That's going to keep you from walking down a dark alley at 2 a.m. That's a good thing.
Right.
But if you have too much fear, it's going to prevent you from maybe going after the thing you really want. Going for, the fear of failure may prevent you from striving for something. That's bad. That's toxic. When it comes to dealing with people, if I got an issue with you and part of me wants to bring it up and discuss it with you, but the other part's just afraid of how you're going to react, and afraid that I'm not going to be able to handle your reaction, and I don't do it. Well, now this thing is sitting out there between us. It's not spoken. I'm trying to ignore it. That never makes it go away. Usually makes it worse.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's what's bad. So you asked like kind of my upbringing, where I came from. I saw that as a lawyer, I was always gravitating toward conflict to make it worse, right?
Yeah.
But then even after I left that, I'd kind of take 6 months, look backwards. How have I spent my time the past 6 months? Just inventory my time and find I was always gravitating toward the conflict. And because of the household I grew up in and because of the first 10 years of my career, I was very comfortable with it.
Gotcha.
But I found in business, the people around me were not comfortable with it. And I didn't realize that at first. And I tried to engage in it, and that made people even more uncomfortable. But what I would get frustrated about is like, we got to deal with these issues fast.
Yeah.
We have a client who's really pissed off at us. Let's embrace that. Let's go talk to the client and deal with it. And there's lots of people like, well, we got a plan. We got to strategize. Let's just go.
Talk,
and,
human to human.
And I found that when we gave in to too much fear or too much anger, the problems usually got worse and they lingered. But I found that when we leaned in and just embraced it, we moved faster, our relationships got stronger, the loyalty with our clients got deeper, we made more money, and people in their careers, they grew professionally and personally. And, watching from afar, those things stagnate is just frustrating.
Right.
So I would always want to jump in and say, hey, let's fix this. That's why I was always kind of running.
I love that, though.
Running to the conflict within this company, which I spent another 10 years doing.
Right.
We started with when I joined, it was about 20 people. We grew to about 500 people. So you make so many mistakes.
I think I know that company.
In that process, yeah. So that's why, as you can see, it's a passion of mine, because we gotta, we're going to have conflict. We can't live and not have that.
So unicorns and rainbow world, maybe, but not in our world.
And I figured that might as well enjoy it.
Right.
Might as well gain from it and learn from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it also, I think, contributes to a stronger, more loyal, more productive workforce on the professional side.
For
your
sure.
team, if your culture is one that handles culture, whether it's the good or the bad, that right there shows the type of leadership that's in place. And I can only imagine, do you ever do any leadership coaching around this topic? And maybe I missed that, but
I have. It's not in the book. In fact, since the book came out, I've been asked to do it more, and so I do that a little bit.
Yeah.
And I do it for people that are pretty high up. Senior execs at much larger companies.
Right.
And by the way, it's the same stuff.
I can only imagine.
And over again, yeah. And the thing is that people, I sit on the boards of a number of companies, and people hear that who don't have maybe a lot of experience in business and think, oh, the boardroom, there's really serious stuff going on in there. And it's the same crap that goes on in high school. And the people in the boardroom know it. But the people outside it, and then some of the people in the boardroom know it, but they pretend that it's more serious than it is, or I guess serious is the thing. It's more, it's this exalted space and rarefied air, but it's not. And
I think that's so spot on, though. It's like so many people, we get hooked up on titles, we get hooked up on processes and procedures, which I get it, okay? I get all that. But sometimes I think if we're going to get to the point and resolve conflict, you have to remember we're human first, right? We're people. And if corporations could just look at it that way, strip the title away, strip what's been done, and have that conversation. So there's a friend of mine, I don't know if you ever heard of him, Brian Kramer. He's a big author, speaker, travels like you do and stuff. But he has this whole hashtag that he's really trademarked around him for years called human to human. Oh. H to H.
Yeah. And
I love how he talks about that experience. So when I think about this and I hear that, I'm thinking, if we just strip it all away, go into a boardroom, it's like sitting at lunch at the high school, having a conversation. You're going to get in a fight, you're going to have some interesting conversations, but hey, we're going to resolve it.
Right.
Hopefully.
I mean, presumably you're all in that room for a specific purpose.
Exactly.
Go do the thing that you're there to do.
Yeah.
And when you bump into conflict, lean into it so you can do that thing faster.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so this book's been out for how long now?
It's been about a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, actually a little longer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. I mean, I love the hardcover on it.
Yeah.
When I did mine, it was just 189 pages of soft cover, but my new one's going to be hardcover. After meeting all these new friends and guests at my show, they all have hardcovers. I'm like, boy, I got to step my game up now.
Nice.
But
that was the publisher's call.
Yeah. I think they usually like the hardcover. It's more tangible, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but okay, so in here, I know in the first the first chapter, you give some really good examples. I like the two, and I think it's General Motors was one, and then your mom's experience at the retail at the mall or something like this when she went to exchange an outfit or a shirt or a onesie it was.
Yep.
And then she couldn't get help, so his mom goes into the retail location. She buys this onesie. It's the wrong size. She goes in, and it's no one's around. Like everyone's busy. They're not able to help. So she looks at the price and goes, "That's the same price," and just swaps it out and walks out. And then she gets busted. So instead of explaining it, like you say, she got nervous. So, I mean, a lot of us do that.
Yeah, she got tensed up. You know, a security guard came to her and they put her in department store jail for about an hour.
Oh my God!
And you know, she's just going through the highlight reel of shame in her mind, like, oh man, this is gonna, you know, I've brought shame to my family, and anyway, but. You mentioned General Motors.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That basically, I'll just real short. They put faulty ignition switches into cars.
Right.
And about 124 people were killed. Another 275 people were seriously injured. They ultimately recalled 30 million vehicles, and they ultimately paid over $2.5 billion in fines and settlements. So that's bad.
Yeah.
And what made that even more tragic is that there was a handful of people inside GM who knew from within 10 years that they were putting defective ignition switches into cars, and they said nothing. So you talked about fight or flight before. This is flight.
Yeah.
And that flight was the same instinct that caused my mom to not speak up for herself when she's accosted at the department store. It's the same thing. And you know, that was a culture that was built on fear. I mean, they were
you're not kidding.
Yeah, extremely averse to conflict. You know, the idea that a lot of these corporate cultures are engineered and structured to avoid conflict.
Yeah.
Do not speak up. You know, so when you want to raise your hand and say, hey, I think there's a problem here, we got to recall a bunch of cars, that's going to end badly for whoever that person is.
Yeah.
Now, the amazing thing is, Mary Barra, when she took over, and all this came to light within like her first 2 weeks as CEO of GM,
right?
She just said, forget all that. We're leaning into this hard. She stood up, she took responsibility for it.
That's awesome.
And she just drove, not to use the pun, it's GM, but she drove safety and customer first as the number one priority.
Yeah.
And then she made it so that it became very easy to speak up within General Motors if there was a problem.
Yeah.
And since then, there are quite a few examples of things where somebody notices something wrong in the line, and there was actually a speak up report that they could just fill out, and it just made it easy.
Interesting. That's good though.
Yeah.
Eliminate the fear. Culture of openness, share ideas, share problems, let's resolve them, and show the world that we're good, you know, at what we do, and we're the best. And they have come a long ways. Yeah. I remember when I worked at GM, I was one of their senior global web strategists for a number of years, and I traveled. I was in a global role, and it was just that. It was all about fear and territorial. So when I came out of Detroit, out of corporate, and I'm flying into Germany or South Africa or Dubai, somewhere in the Middle East, I would, I'm the bad guy, right? Because my job was, according to them, come down with corporate policies and you're going to strip away my local market budget. I'm like, no, guys, I'm here to talk to you. I'm here to have and I did. And I did voice my opinion all the time, which is why, hey, sorry, guys, sometimes you guys got pissed at me, but we made progress. And I made friends. And I was able to do that, avoid the negative conflicts, focus on the positives, and get them to rethink the way that we approach, in my role, the global approach strategies and how we wrote it out. So it was interesting that in my short-lived career there, how I actually did make an impact. It was pretty cool to see, because I had the authority, and I was like 6 layers underneath Rick Wagner at the time, or something like that.
Yeah,
which he was a cool. He was a cool boss.
Cool boss. I mean, the remarkable thing is that even when you're in a large organization that has a culture that doesn't jibe well with candor and accountability and those things, you can just kind of draw a circle around you, And anyone who steps inside that circle operates by under your standards. You know, like we're going to call each other out when we screw up. We're going to congratulate each other when we do well, and we're in this together. And I found, because I used to be frustrated when I would see far out into the organization, like that's not going right over there. I need to go fix that. And you can't boil the ocean.
Yeah.
But you can start right around you.
Yeah.
And then you create this arena in which people feel empowered to do whatever, you know, if they have something to say, they have the opportunity to say it.
Absolutely.
And then, by the way, that does become infectious, and that spreads.
Yeah.
In the same way that the toxins can metastasize throughout an organization, the good stuff can too. Yeah. And it's awesome. It's like when that happens, it's awesome.
I love that. There was somebody else, I think in your book you were talking about, his name was Steve. He was a CEO that you shadowed for a day.
Yeah.
And learned quite a bit from his organization. But the conflict, it was definitely there. And when he messed up, he's like, you know what, I apologize, I will never. It was when he pulled an employee away from one of the direct report, or one of her direct reports. Walk us through that, because I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, so this guy is he's CEO, and he's, every other word he's dropping F-bombs.
Hey, Terry Bean, you'd get along with him great.
From the outside looking in, when I was first taken aback. Because the first thing he said to me when I saw him, like from far away, he says, "Gabe Karp, you look like shit." By the way, can you say that?
You just said it. It's fine.
Right.
Hey, Terry came on here and dropped F-bombs every 5 seconds. So yeah, I think shit's okay.
Yeah. So he, and he was pretty aggressive in that way. And then I would just sit with him in meetings, and he would just lay into people hard and fast, and like you totally screwed this up. And I noticed that the people that he was talking to weren't offended by it. Like they had seen this from him before, so they didn't overinterpret what he was doing. That's just I talked to someone after, like, that's just how he communicates. And in the same meeting, within 90 seconds of him really laying into somebody for how they screwed up, and when they came up with some kind of solution, he would say, "All right, now you're talking. That's exactly what we should be doing. Great." Right. And
see, that's awesome.
Yeah, we were walking, and this woman comes up to him and just starts laying into him because a couple days earlier he had gone to someone on her team and pulled that person into one of his projects, and she said, "When you did that, like I needed him working on that other project. So when you did that, you undermined my authority. You made everybody else's job on my team's job harder.
Right.
And had you come to me and said you wanted him, I could have either, if you really wanted him, I could have restructured things, and it would have taken me half a day, not a big deal, or I would have just given you somebody else." And as she's like leaning into all this, and he immediately says, "I fucked up. I'm sorry."
Right.
And she said, "No problem. Just don't do it again." And she walks away.
That's awesome.
And it was like the speed with which they moved through conflicts and issues was lightning fast. And you compare that to another organization.
Right.
That leader would have just probably stewed about it, and probably would have talked to her coworkers about it. Can you believe what Steve did? And now I have to do this, and I have to do that. And all this energy would have been consumed by that. Yeah. And while that energy has been consumed, Steve's team is just on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Like it's in the rearview mirror and forgotten about.
Yeah. But I would imagine that's a story she'll share with her team, because she had this conflict. In the beginning, it was anger, frustration, anger, not fear, but anger. And then all of a sudden, she confronts Steve and calls him out on it, and then turns it around, and he apologizes. So now she has a higher level of respect, I would imagine, for this guy. And her team's going to have higher level of respect for the type of leader he is. He admits to it and says, "Hey, won't happen again."
Yeah. So
I think that is a lesson for a lot of corporations to take into consideration.
And by the way, one of the things that Steve said to her is he said, "I'm sorry. Like I fucked up. I'm sorry. Steve, am going to go talk to that guy. I'm going to tell him what I did was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. And I'm going to tell him that if I ever come to him again, because I might, in my urgency, I may just go to that guy. He has not only the right, but the obligation to say to me, okay, before, Steve, I do the thing you're asking me to do, you told me before, I got to go talk to my boss. And he said, yeah. So he sort of built in the safeguard there.
Right.
Because he knows he's going fast. And he knows that he may not stop to think about that. So he wants to make sure that anyone he goes to doesn't have to be afraid to speak up to him because he's the CEO and founder of the company.
Right.
And that's culture top to bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't be mad at penguins.
Yeah, don't get mad at penguins.
Don't get mad.
Don't get mad at penguins.
Poor little penguins. You know, it's funny because when you were, there was a YouTube, I can't remember when it was. It was a few days ago. I was watching something on YouTube, and you had this whole thing about explaining like birds. You know, they have feathers, they have wings, and they fly. And penguins
right.
have feathers and wings, but they're not capable of flying.
Right.
And I think you were talking about something about the exception and a gap between high expectations.
The expectation gap.
There you go. That's
it. So the whole penguin.
See, I done a little bit here.
A little bit. I'll try to sum that up. The penguin analogy is really a lesson in acceptance. That we should accept people for who they are, limitations and all, and that we should not expect them to do things that they're literally not capable of.
Right.
And one of the challenges with that is that it's oftentimes hard to see someone's limitations when everything else we know about them suggests that they're not limited. Right. So that's why it's like, take penguins.
Yeah.
But penguins, bird, it's got wings, it's got feathers, and birds with wings and feathers can fly.
Right.
Except that penguins like literally cannot. It is not within their capability. So you could choose to get mad at that, or you can just accept it. Apply that to people.
Yeah.
You know, and I've heard, because people have shared to me a frustration they have with someone else,
right.
And I say you shouldn't get mad at penguins because they can't fly. And they're like, what the hell are you talking about?
Exactly.
And then I say, look, this person, you want them to do this specific thing, they don't understand it. They can't conceive of what you want, and they say, what are you talking about? This person, graduated from Harvard. They're super smart, and they're actually really funny and witty, so they're quick. And someone who has that degree and is that witty and that quick, obviously they can understand this. Right. And I say, no, they can't.
No.
This thing they can't. And then, I sometimes ask people, you're telling me you've run into this same issue with this person time and time again.
Right.
The next time this comes up, and the next time you approach them, and maybe the issue is the person gets mad and misunderstands the speaker, and then gets angry and yells at them. Right. And I say, what do you think the chances are the next time this happens, they're going to do the same thing? And they say, 100%. It's all right, then why are you getting mad at that?
Exactly.
You literally know it's going to happen. Why get mad at the thing before it even happens?
Yeah.
And a lot of people just don't sort of get out from their own tunnel vision. Yeah. And that's what it is. Because, again, we've got these toxins. We've got fear, anger, judgment,
I've been
ego.
there.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that, We
all are. I am too.
I've been mad at a lot of fucking penguins in my life, I bring on so much of my own pain, though. It's crazy over my journey. It's been a couple of years I've been really diving deep into my self-discovery journey and my true transformation, which really what led to me starting Imagine Better. Because I was like, hey, I want to imagine a better life for myself, and imagine being a better dad, or imagine having a more successful company, And I was like, oh. And then Terry Bean's been like, Mark, you got to get out there again. You need, you have all the experience and all the talent, And so short it up, this is how I came up with this concept. And I'm a brand guy, right? So visually, I have to build everything out. I write the whole introduction of what the show's about, and I go, here you go. And Terry looks at it, he goes, brilliant. And he said a bunch of other stuff. And I was like, and I think within a week, maybe 2 weeks, we had the inaugural when my office was in Rochester, and that's how this all began.
Awesome.
And now it's turning into a book. It's turning into speaking engagements, which my first one is Disrupt HR Detroit coming up in October.
Great.
I haven't been on a stage in a while. I'm
nice.
freaking out. So, any tips?
Yeah, tell them to turn the lights up real bright, and then you can't even see the audience.
Oh man, I wear sunglasses. I can't, just blinders or something. Yeah. So how many speaking engagements do you do a year?
I mean, it ebbs and flows. What I find is that when it's a business like any other. So when I put effort into it, 5-6 months later, I get pretty busy.
Nice.
My goal is to get to 4 a month.
Nice.
And at the end of last year, I was tracking right at that. And then, of course, I took my foot off the gas.
Yeah.
And, the other thing is, it's interesting. The struggle I have is that I still have, I'm on the boards of companies, I'm general counsel for a couple, and here's the thing, I'll get up in the morning and I'll think, okay, today I'm just going to really work on speaking stuff, or I've got some ideas I want to kind of flush out and write, do a blog thing or something like that. And then I'll get a call or an email at 9 a.m. from CEO of a company on the board, like, hey, can you jump in for something? I could use your help.
Right.
And I jump in. I can help. I'm very helpful. I feel very productive solving what they're doing.
Right.
I'm good at it, and it's not a challenge for me, but it's fulfilling. And then 5 hours later, I've done all that, and I've made zero progress toward the thing that I wanted to do when I woke up that morning. And that's the struggle, is sort of pushing off the stuff that you're good at, you enjoy, you can really help other people, and is fulfilling, and actually not do it.
Yeah.
So I can do something much harder that I'll put forth a lot of effort and not see any benefit for weeks, months, maybe in a year.
Right. I tend to find myself, I'm very routine kind of guy. So very organized and schedule everything, right? Live by my calendar. So I'm literally talking to my nutrition coach yesterday, Renee Caruso, and we're walking through what my morning looks like, and we restructured a lot of it. So and she goes, because I'm the type of personality, and seems like you might be as well. Like, I strive for 100% every day, and I know that's not realistic, okay? And I set myself up for failure, and I beat the shit out of myself for this. And we're like, all right, do these things, get up at this time, do these things, and even if you hit 50% of what you set out to do, reward yourself with that. Don't beat yourself up because you didn't hit 100%. And I'm like, that's freaking hard for me though, right? Yeah. So it's like I'm learning to kind of slow down, learning to prioritize, and learning to reprioritize based off activities like this in the day, right? Disruptions that come at us.
Yeah. It's hard because when you achieve 50%, and maybe 50% is somebody else's 150%.
Exactly.
But if there's a part of me, and it sounds like a part of you too.
Yeah.
If you take a step back and just take the time to congratulate yourself, there's a fear that now I'm going to become complacent.
Yeah.
And that 50% is going to be good enough.
Right.
And that I'm afraid I'm going to recalibrate my goals. Mm-hmm. To where 50% becomes 100%.
Yeah.
And then and then it's just a race to zero.
Yeah.
And look,
Epic
a lot
failure.
of that's not realistic, but it's an irrational fear.
Yeah, I agree. It's it's something I think we all strive for, to be the best versions of ourselves, right? And what does that really mean, right? I mean, you ask 5 different people, how do you define the best version of oneself? And I think we're obviously going to all have different variations, but I think the underlying, if you're aware of yourself, you're aware of your presence, you're aware of the type of choices that you're going to make in your day or life. I mean, shit, I've made some stupid choices in my life because I wasn't being aware.
Right.
But and get over the fear factors. Like, so many of us, are fearful. You mentioned earlier, being fearful, it holds us back from a lot of things, and then we can get frustrated because we didn't go out and do it, push ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And now you start getting mad at yourself, so now you're the penguin, and you're mad at yourself for not doing it. Self-sabotage, right? I mean, gosh, I'm the king of that most of the time. It's crazy. Learning not to be, though.
Yeah. I mean, the most successful people I know operate without a safety net.
Yeah.
Now, by the way,
That's why they're professionals.
Yeah, but sometimes they crash and burn hard.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and you know that's why you see some people who are just they have very severe swings, ups and downs in terms of their career trajectories. Yeah, you know, I mean, and that's I think that a lot of people who do that, by the way, when they're not self-reflective,
right?
They keep looking forward.
Right.
And the failure of today or the failures behind them have no impact on them whatsoever, which is an amazing superpower.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, it is good to stop and smell the roses once in a while.
Well, it could be an amazing superpower or an incredible blind spot.
Yes.
Because like Jacob Brown always says, I don't know if I think you know Jacob. He always talks about fell forward.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes.
So he gave it. What I loved his analogy when he says that in life is because he used to play football, and when he was on the field and you're at the 1 yard line, you know you're gonna fall forward to score that touchdown. That's your goal. Fail forward. Right. Don't go setting yourself backwards. So I think a lot of us in life need to, when it comes to conflicts, think about, how do we go forward instead of reversing this incident. And like you said with Steve at the CEO of that, what was the name of his company? I can't remember for the life of me.
In the book, I call it Vulcan.
Oh, Vulcan. I knew it was a V. I was like,
yeah.
There's another company I know it's with a V, and it's not that. But okay, Vulcan. You called it that. Yeah. So I know you changed some of the names in the companies
to protect the innocent.
Yeah. So witness program, protection program here. So in there, I mean, I think that's the same with like how we handle that conflict and rose to the top from it, and now I like how you said then he just moves on to other projects and forgets about it.
Yeah,
I mean, we have to do that.
Yeah, and the thing is that conflict for him was a non-event.
Okay,
it doesn't even register in his history.
Nice.
Like if I went back to him and said, "Hey, remember that time?" He'd be like, "No, wait, what happened?"
Right.
I guess sounds like me. I guess I did that. That's the genuine truth of that culture.
Right.
It's when you genuinely live that culture, those events don't register in the analogs of history. It's just that's just part of it. It's like I don't remember the last time I blew my nose. I don't remember the last time I said I screwed up. I screw up all the time.
That's a good point.
That's
an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, and it's I could see talking to him and saying, yeah, you screwed up. He's like, oh, newsflash, I screwed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want me to actually remember a specific time that I screwed up? Like I got to pour through all this. Yeah. Yeah, and back to the things that the people that just don't pay attention to the past, they don't pay attention to the failure, they just move forward.
Right.
A lot of people struggle in conflict. I mean, bringing it back to this, I saw this quote the other day. It's from Seneca, some Roman whatever.
Yep.
Where it said, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's something like, "We suffer much more in imagination than in reality."
Oh gosh! Yeah.
And it's the scenario we conjure up in our minds about how the other person may be thinking or how the other person might react.
Right.
And all this is imaginary. It hasn't happened yet, or we're projecting some kind of fear onto the other person or some kind of reaction to the person, and then we're starting to react to that. We're truly reacting to our own imagination, this own thing that is a figment of something that's not. There's no evidence in the real world that this thing has happened.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a little bit. There's a quote by Michelangelo, and actually it's something that I'm going to be using in my upcoming speech myself. I might butcher it here too. I'm going to try it. I saw an angel in the stone, and I carved him till I set him free. And what I like about that, it's almost like you can relate to it in conflict, I think too. But to me, the way I interpret that when I saw that quote and why some people looked at it as a way for him to express himself in terms of how, his art, But I look at it as when you set yourself free, it's deep inside our souls when we're going through transformational change, and we're looking inward and outward almost at the same time, and boom, next thing you know, like, wow, who's this? Well, it's me, but I'm a new person. I'm a better version. And now I'm ready to address conflict. I'm ready to tackle the world in a different light. Like after meeting you and reading some of your book, I just got his book, so I haven't read the whole thing. But I think I covered the first couple chapters, maybe a little bit. But
it's a quick read.
It is I mean, how many pages is it? I don't even know.
It's
a couple 300?
No, it's 2 something.
A little over 200. It's not.
We have the answer right in front of us.
Yeah, right there. There you go.
I'm curious. I got to remember.
Me too.
It's 204.
Oh, yeah, that's another thing I did. Like at the end of each chapter, you have
little call-out boxes. I don't know if the camera picks that up, but little summaries of each. Yeah,
I like that.
It's a quick reference after the fact.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's an audiobook.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, narrated by me. But when you get the audiobook, I feel like I'm like pitching something on the home shopping channel.
You can totally.
but you get a PDF of just those call-out boxes at the end of each chapter. It's like a quick 3-4 bullet summary of each chapter.
I love it.
If you're an audiobook kind of person.
In your car, driving, obviously you're not holding this thing in your hand. Right. Might spill your coffee, get in a wreck, So audiobooks are awesome. I love them. I personally, when I'm doing reading, I'm usually obviously sitting at home most of the time. I like the tangible book in my hand, and being on this show. I mean, gosh, I've acquired quite a few new books now because every guest I have, almost everyone has a book. Anything in the works?
There are a couple chapters I wrote that didn't make it into the book.
Okay.
That. I don't know. Starting to ruminate. One of them was a chapter on how to have political conversations with people because it's a pretty charged environment. Yeah, it's funny. There's someone that I respect very much, like very wise guy, and I told him that I was writing that chapter at the time. He said, "Oh, that's going to be a short chapter. Don't do it."
Oh my gosh. What was your response to that? Hell with you, I'm doing it.
I said, no, there's a way to do it. There's a way to have it. And by the way, this is a guy who we are on opposite sides of the political
Okay.
Well, we're both pretty close to the center, but he, so we debate, and he's a former lawyer, also a litigator, so we enjoy arguing. We have really good conversations. And I said, it's like this. And he said, yeah, but most people aren't like us, and that's where I disagree with him. I think most people are.
I would think so, and even if they're not, who cares? Allow your words and allow them to interpret your words in those chapters. I mean, that's the beautiful part about reading and trying to take in and embrace the message, right? And get out of it what you can. Hopefully, they get out of it what your intention was, but if not. Hey,
that is
to each his own. Who gives a fuck?
But on like political conversations, it's such a charged, anxious environment. That if most people, if they express one political opinion,
right,
others who hear that will assign a whole host of political opinions on that person and impose that on them when in fact it's not. And it's this tribalistic mentality and. People have this partisan lens through which they view everything. Yeah. And that's another toxin.
Yeah.
And what I've done, I travel a lot, so I'm in Ubers, sometimes cabs, and if I like striking up conversations, so if the driver expresses an opinion that I disagree with, I'm like, okay, I'm stuck with this person for 20 minutes.
Yeah, we're going in at it.
Let's have a conversation. And here's what I find most people do to turn the conflict into a toxic interaction. When someone hears an opinion they don't like, they're going to argue with that person with the goal of, I'm going to convince this person that they're wrong and get them to change their mind.
Right.
And my favorite quote is, all your social media posts have really caused me to rethink my political position. Said no one ever. Like no one has ever said that. So when I get into these conversations with people, I have one goal and one goal only. I want to convince them that I am not insane.
Right.
for having this thing. And if you're not insane, it's actually not hard to convince somebody that you're not insane.
Right.
If you are insane, you're probably not going to be able to convince somebody. But the idea is when I get out of the car, I just want that person to think, all right, I don't agree with some of his opinions, but you know what? Seemed like a reasonable guy.
Yeah.
You know,
or if he takes off real quick,
right.
flips you off.
Yeah.
You know?
gives me a negative rating,
That's
1 star on my rider.
He's batshit crazy, everyone.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, I love it. So, real quick here. I mean, outside of your professional world, what are any hobbies? Anything that is fun? Do you have time for any of that stuff?
I've been playing a lot of pickleball.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never done that.
Oh yeah, it's addicting.
Everyone's talking about this and doing this now.
It's addicting. Yeah. I play a lot. I actually last fall I tore my calf. Which sucked. I'd never done that before. So I was out for about a month and a half. I did read an article that pickleball is costing the United States something like $450 million in medical expense.
What?
Like just the injuries. But I think that's because people get injured playing all kinds of sports. Yeah. But now that pickleball is so popular, more people are just playing pickle, so the injuries are consolidating into that.
I wonder how though. It's like, is it because of the shorter distance and the quick stops and turns?
Yeah, it's knees.
Yeah,
knees
I can see that.
And Achilles, and also pickleball is targeting a lot of older people who don't want to run around playing tennis are playing pickle. And it's funny. I used to play basketball a lot, pick up hoops, and as I got older, the injuries that people were having started changing. At first, it was some random thing, like you get a black eye or you collide with somebody, and then people start blowing out their knees, and then you get to certain, then they start blowing out their Achilles, and it just as you age, now I sound like an old guy who's like infirm, but it's. Anyway, I play a lot of pickleball.
Nice.
I'm a skier, so I love skiing.
Okay.
I do a lot of. I like the extreme stuff.
Nice. Yeah. Gosh, I skied numerous times in my life, obviously, but I've always leaned towards snowboarding since in my mid-20s.
Yeah.
And so now when I take my son and my daughter skiing, I snowboard and they ski. But I used to live in California for a long, long time, and then I moved to Utah because I wanted to ski the backcountry stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I lived in Utah for 6 years and did a lot of extreme snowboarding on the backside. On the Wasatch Front there.
Yeah.
In fact, I lived right at the foothill of Provo Canyon.
Oh.
Down by Sundance Ski Resort.
Yeah.
And then, so we would...
Near Park City, not far from Park City?
About 35 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go... If I went up Provo Canyon or up through Salt Lake City, if I go around Deer Valley and stuff, get to Park City. But we would go to Alta, Snowbird, all the time. Snowbird was my favorite. I loved snowboarding back there.
I don't think you can snowboard at Alta. Maybe now you can.
Maybe.
They banned snowboarding.
They must have. Well, when I was there, and that was a long time ago, we did it. I don't know if it was allowed to, but we did. It was the backside stuff mostly. And I remember Sundance never allowed it. And then they finally allowed it just as I was getting ready to move out of Utah to come back to Michigan. So, but one of my big skiing trips to Utah, when I was living there, I went up there and some of my buddies worked at Sundance Ski Resort. So they're like, hey, come on up, here's some day passes. I'm like, let's try skiing. This is before they allowed snowboarding. I'm like, oh God, all right. So I'm flying down one of the main slopes, and there was this Oriental lady. And I'm like, out of the blue, she came out of nowhere, I think. I mean, I just didn't see her. And then all of a sudden, by the time I saw her, it was too late. I mean, she looked at me, and I don't know what the hell she was screaming. I thought, whatever. I have no idea. No offense, everybody. I just don't know. And all of a sudden, boom! We collided, and we went flying different. I felt so bad. I went and helped her pick up her stuff. I haven't skied since.
Oh, yeah. I have the same. So I snowboarded for 2 days in a row and got decent at it.
Yeah.
But for me, if I'm snowboarding, it's just a day I'm not skiing.
Right.
So I can do things on skis I cannot do on a snowboard. So that's why.
Yeah, my son's that way too. He likes that. He does. Do you ski with poles or freestyle?
Yeah. No. I ski with poles.
Okay.
But I've backcountry. I've done cat trips. I've done heliski trips.
Oh wow, you took it different than I did. I didn't do that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's awesome. So I like that because it's like you're very adventurous. Father, husband, author, speaker. I mean, there's a lot lot of cool things. You've got quite the life journey there, you know, and you've done a lot. And the world, I'm guessing, hasn't seen the best version of Gabe yet.
No, I think I hope to get it, but I think it's one of those things that you just keep striving for, and you never quite get there.
Well, there we have it. You guys.
But it's the journey that counts.
It's the journey that counts, and the collection of experiences along our journeys are what make each and every one of us very unique, very beautiful, and special in this world. Go out and imagine better, you guys. Episode 18 with Gabe Karp, buddy. How you?
Right.
Awesome.
Good talk.
Good stuff.
Talk.